Welcome back to the Bourbon Note, everybody. I'm Ben. I got a Bottled and Bond blind bourbon banger battle on the bar. Let's get into it. So on the bar tonight, I've got a Bottled and Bond blind bourbon banger battle. And what's different about this one is that it's not just about Bottled and Bond bourbons. They're all new releases as of 2025. So we have the Old Fitz 7-year Bottled and Bond. Oh, they're also all 7 years. We've got the Bullet Bourbon Bottled and Bond, which is 7 years, and we've got the Old Granddad Bottled and Bond. This I don't actually have a bottle of, so I've got a little picture standing in for it. And before we get too far into this video, I've had a few people comment on my blinds, because I usually put the bottles in the front just to have the bottles present on the bar, and then I have the glasses behind them, and a lot of times people say, even though the glasses are mixed up, it kind of throws them off because it looks like I'm drinking, whatever glass is behind that bottle. So they've suggested I put the bottles off to the side, which I think is a great suggestion. And if I had more than 3 bottles, I would do that, but my OCD will not allow me to do it. It just looks stupid having 3 off to the side or 2 over here and 1 over here. So usually my flights consist of 4 bourbons. And so next time I'll do that. I'll have 2 on each side, and you'll be satisfied with that. My OCD will be satisfied with it. And we can all move on with our lives. But for this video, at least I've got the bottles spread out. I've got a couple glasses here, and I've got one behind this. These glasses are mixed up. This is totally blind. I do not know which one is which. And as I said before, these are all 2025 released bourbons. That's why I chose just these 3, because before a bunch of people say, hey, why didn't you include the 7-year Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond and the 7-year Bottled and Bond Flight? That's why. I just wanted to do the new ones. The other reason is I just don't have a bottle of it handy. I didn't feel the need to go out and spend the $50 to get a bottle just to do this flight. So we're keeping it at 2025 releases. So not much information about these. I mean, this one is the only wheater. This one's high rye. This one's probably highest rye between the two of them. Higher rye between the two of them. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I haven't had the Bullet in quite some time. I've actually been saving it since I got it. I got that one pretty early in the year. Been saving, making sure I didn't drink the whole bottle just to do this flight, because I knew these other 2 bourbons were coming out and I was hoping to get my hands on them. Again, haven't got my hands on the OGD 7-year, but I did get a sample from Bourbon School. So thank you to Bourbon School. Go check them out. Did a review of the Old Fitz. I'm interested to see how that holds up, because I remember it was good, but it was just kind of basic. Did a review of the Old Granddad, really liked it, but it was lacking in a certain area. And then the Bullet, I can't remember exactly what it tastes like, but I remember I was pleasantly surprised and definitely liked it. All of these are around the same price, or at least they should. Well, I should say this one's a little more expensive. The Bullet's around $50, I think. The OGD is $45 to $50, and this one is it's supposed to be like $60, $65. I know there's still some hype around this one, so other places might be charging a lot. I think I paid $62 for mine, pre-tax. So anyway, let's get into it. I'm gonna go through, nose these bourbons. I'll fast forward through that just because that gets a little tedious, and I will check back in with you in just a second. I think this is gonna be harder than I thought.
That's what she said.
So, on the preliminary nosing, right off the bat, the first one, so I'm going to go on my right, glass number 1, middle, glass number 2, my left, glass number 3. And again, it has nothing to do with the bottles that are near them. We'll put these in the middle. Glass number 1, that first time around, was coming across at first a little more bold. Could have been just because it was the first one I nosed. And then when I went through, glass number 3 was kind of the weakest one out of them. And then I went back and kind of, nosed this one first and went the other way through them. And then I nosed the middle one first and kind of went back and forth. And now I still think right off the bat on the nose, number 3 is struggling a little bit. Not struggling, but it's a little bit behind. It comes across as a little bit lighter. But still really good. None of these are bad on the nose at all. They're all really good. Shocking how much similarity there is amongst these with They all have a really nice vanilla note that I'm getting. And these two, being higher rye bourbons, and this one being a wheater, you know, sometimes you would expect that it would be a really stark contrast. And sometimes there is, and then sometimes, you know, in a blind, you know, at least on the nose on this one, you know, the signature wheat notes that I would get that would tell me something as a wheater or make me suspect it, I'm just not really getting off of the nose. So I'm having a hard time picking what that one might be. So this is going to be a pretty non-biased review here, I think. Well, not that my reviews are ever biased, but I mean, you know, sometimes you do a blind, you have a sneaking suspicion of what one of them is, and sometimes that can throw you off a little bit. I don't know which one the wheater is, just based on the nose. And so, yeah, I think they all have something to offer, but I think number one so far on the nose is a little more bold, but not by much. And the one, number 3 here on my left is just a little less bold, but not by much. So let's get into the tasting. Again, I'm going to fast forward through it. Check back in a second. So in blinds, it's interesting how things can change so quickly. Glass number 3 on the palate, just coming slamming home here with the big flavor profile. That was the one I said was kind of the weakest on the nose. It's contending for first place on the palate as far as boldness. Now, I would say right now, I really like all of these, and I think that they definitely all have their place. And so I think right now it's kind of hard to figure out what I'm going to judge these on, because I think samples number 1 and 3 are the most, like, they have the most powerful flavors. They've got the most kind of like in-your-face, bold, rich flavors. Sample number 2 is really good. It's a nice bourbon, but it's lighter, and there's a place for that. But I feel like on the palate, it's, I don't know. I feel like this is going to come down to it depends on what you're looking for out of a bourbon, what you're in the mood for, because all 3 of these offer a little something different. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I'm going to have to go through these. I'm going to go through these, you know, in the other direction too. I've been doing water. I'll raw dog them as per the usual. And then, yeah, try to make my final thoughts on this. But I think this is going to be a difficult one for sure, because again, I'm just liking different things about each one of these. So let's get back into the second round of tastings here, and we'll check back with you in just a second. All right, I think I've got my order, but this was a very, very interesting blind. I will say right off of the bat, given how I felt about it in the review, the Old Fitz is doing better in this blind than I thought it would, because even if it comes in last, if it's my last place bourbon, it's only last place because it's a tad lighter, and just because it just offers something a little different than the other 2 do as far as what I'm maybe just in the mood for right now. So the best way to describe this is, I think number 3 is going to be my last place one. I think the first one, number 1, is my first place, and number 2 is my second place. In samples number 1 and 3, my first and second place, they just came across a little edgier. They came across more like, you know, one's a pork chop, one's a steak, and then the third place one is just a really nice dessert. The third place one came across much sweeter and came across a little more, I guess just a little bit lighter. But I don't think that, I don't know, I would say this last place one, whichever one it is, I have a feeling it might be the Old Fitz. And I could be wrong about that, because in blinds, you just never know. You can get really surprised. Sometimes, you know, tasting a bourbon next to another one can influence it for better or worse. And it can really throw off your flavor profile too. But I'm really getting a really nice desserty quality out of this one that I'm enjoying. And if I was in the mood for that particular kind of pour, I would choose the third place one over the first and second one. Right now, I'm just kind of feeling the bold richness. These 2 are a little more kind of in your face, flavor profiles. And the reason I picked sample number 1 as the winner is it just came across as a little tiny bit more well-rounded out. Glass number 3, the second place one, has a little more of a sharp edge to it, a little more of a punch in the face kind of. And again, my third place is, just a little more sweet and light and just kind of more desserty. But that doesn't mean it's the Wheater. We'll find out. So let's get into it, folks. I'm enjoying all 3 of these. And so, yeah, like I said, I think they all have their place. So let's look at our last place bourbon, and it is, what is that? Shockingly, it's the Bulleit. Oh my God, I would have never guessed that. Now, it has been the longest time since I've had the Bulleit. And I do not remember it being that sweet. That rich kind of caramel sweetness was really throwing me off and making me think it might have been the Old Fitz. And that's not why I put it in last place. It's certainly not a bias. It just came across as a little bit lighter, but still a really good quality. Like I said, these other two kind of came across as like main courses, and this is just a really nice dessert. So depending on what you're in the mood for, sometimes you want steak, sometimes you want ice cream, and one's never going to be a good substitute for the other. So I gotta tell you, I am absolutely shocked at that. Not that the Bulleit came in last, because like I said, all 3 of these are really good, but the sweetness on this one, I thought Bulleit had a little more of a rough edge to it. So now I'm really, really interested in seeing how this works out. So let's get into first place, because by default, that's gonna tell us our last place. All right, first place is the Old Fitz. The one that I gave it, I wouldn't say a negative review of it. I just said it was weak a little bit and a little bit more basic. But it came slamming home tonight on this one as the more rounded out. I think that, and of course that puts the OGD in second place. So, as I said, it was kind of a battle between these two for first place. And I thought that the first place winner, which is the Old Fitz, just came across as a little bit more rounded out. And this, the OGD, which I now know is the OGD, came across as equal in flavor, but a little bit more of a punch in the face. That is not surprising if I were to just compare these two against each other. I'm not shocked by those results. But I am totally shocked that that the Bulleit is the middle one. Honestly, if I had to guess, I would have bet that was the Wheater. And so that just goes to show you, folks, you just never know in a blind how this is going to turn out. Because I think of all of these, well, obviously this is a Wheater, so there's no rye in it. But this, I think Bulleit's it's like in the 30% rye. I mean, it's a high rye bourbon. And just a really, really nice sweetness on that. I would say, does this change my opinion on the Old Fitz? And again, in the review, I said the Old Fitz was a good bourbon. I just thought it was a little basic. And for the price point, I thought it was a little basic. And so, I don't know, maybe this does change my opinion of this a little bit, because going up against two high rye bourbons of the same age, and obviously they're all bottled in bond, so the same proof, and holding its own, high rye bourbons tend to be, for better or worse, whether you like it or not, they tend to be a little more bold in your face. That rye brings out some pretty rich characteristics in a bourbon. And for a Wheater to go up against them, a Wheater that I wasn't as impressed with when I first had it, that's pretty surprising. So, the last time I have had a little bit of this, don't give me shit about the neck pour nonsense. Even the last time I had this, I said I drank this on the Whiskey 6, and I had a sip of it. In the first sip, I was like, man, this is actually really drinking much better than it did last time. And then the second couple of sips, it kind of fell off and became a little more basic. Tonight, it didn't. And I don't know if maybe drinking it against a couple of high rye bourbons maybe actually brought out or kind of highlighted some better characteristics about it that I didn't notice in the review or the last couple of times I've had this. Because that's the other thing about doing blinds. They can go, On one hand, it can throw your palate off, but on the other hand, when you compare a couple of different things, it really can kind of showcase something in a bourbon that you didn't notice before. So I'm gonna take this as a win for Old Forester. Old Fitzgerald. I mean, obviously it did win, but I mean, for my opinion of this bottle, I would say my opinion has been boosted a little bit. So I'm looking forward to, I did do a review, or not a review, but a video where I compared this to some budget bourbons. And I want to put this in more blinds because I think so far, you know, I think doing it in blinds has kind of helped it a little bit. The last blind I did that had the Old Fitz in it was budget bourbons, and the Old Forester 101, but Old Forester 100 is one of my favorite bourbons. It's just a profile that works for me. And so I even said in that video that maybe that's a little unfair. So, you know, the Old Forester, or God, I keep saying Old Forester, Old Fitz, I think we need to explore this more and move this forward into some more blinds and see how it does, because so far I've been fairly impressed with it. So anyway, folks, this has been the Bottled in Bond 2025 7-year Bourbon Banger Battle Blind. I'm just looking at how much is left in the glasses here, because you know we got to do the blend at the end of the video. I'm just going to drink a little bit more of this bullet to kind of even these out, and then we'll review the blend. Please hold. All right. Let's get into the blend real quick before we get out of here. I don't know if it's just something with me psychologically, but I've been noticing the last handful of times I've done blends, they're all starting to smell the same and taste the same regardless of what's in them. Zebra cake vanilla, waxy vanilla, a little caramel, some rye spice. Let's get into the palate. Maybe I'm suffering from a little bit of palate fatigue from, you know, sampling all these, but I feel like the blend came across a little weaker than each of these came across on their own. I think that was my experience last time too. So anyway, the blend's decent. If you have all these, do the blend, let me know. But let me know what you think of the results. If you have all three of these bottles, do the blind and let me know what you come up with. So anyway, folks, this has been the 2025 7-year Bottled in Bond Bourbon Banger Battle Blind. On the Bourbon Note, I'm Ben. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you on the next one.